The school year is coming to a close. It can be difficult to keep the kids focused at the end of the school year and entertained during the summer, especially if they have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. ADHD, it's a neurological disorder affecting the part of the brain responsible for executive functions like focus, organization, impulse control. During 2020 to 2022, over 11% of children were diagnosed with ADHD. That's according to the National Center for Health Statistics. Well, in children, some of the most noticeable ADHD symptoms involve intense hyperactivity, impulsivity. Kids with the disorder may seem to be constantly in motion, unable to wait their turn. What does it look like in adults? And then how do we span the difference between the two? Today, we are joined by psychologist Dr. Connie McReynolds, who has more than 30 years of experience in the field of rehab, counseling, and psychology. So whether your child has ADHD or not, she's here to share practical tips on how to keep your child's mind sharp and calm this summer, and also how to deal with the ADHD adult in your life as well. You can ask your questions by getting your question to our expert, 336-379-5775. Remember, your questions are anonymous. You get your questions answered live in real time. All right, so let's kind of just start from the very beginning, Dr. McReynolds, and let's kind of talk about what is ADHD when it looks like for both kids and adults.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be with you and to share the information that I've gleaned over 30 years, and in particular over the past 15 years. And what I've come to understand through my clinics and research and the work that I've done is that ADHD, there's actually an underlying root cause for a lot of the behaviors that we see in children and adults. These root causes I've come to understand are auditory and visual processing problems. And when these problems are in place, it actually makes it difficult for a child or an adult to be able to interact effectively in their world. This has compounding problems because when this is not recognized as being an auditory and visual processing problem, children and adults sometimes are misdiagnosed with a lot of other conditions, and the wrong diagnosis actually is not going to lead to the right intervention.
Okay.
This is also why sometimes some folks find out that the typical traditional interventions such as medications or behavioral approaches, are not yielding lasting results.
All right, so let's kind of take a look at some examples. How do those auditory or visual processing problems impact children and adults in like a daily life? Let's give daily examples.
I'm having a little bit of internet connection. I didn't quite.
Okay, no problem. Unfortunately, we're freezing just a little bit, but I'm hoping that she's going to hear that question about problems processing for children and adults in daily life. We're going to kind of go through that and hope that we can get a better look at what her
is that we can believe that certain types of behaviors may be willful. So for example, let's say I call my husband when I'm leaving work and ask him to pick up a few items at the grocery store for dinner that night. He comes home, however, when he gets here, he once again has forgotten some of the items that I need. My natural response to this could be long-term irritation and frustration because I feel like he just simply isn't paying attention, he isn't doing what I need him to do, and the frustration ensues. And so I'm going to interpret this to mean kind of fill in the blank, all of those things. Now, let's say I have some additional information, and what I have uncovered is that he actually has difficulty literally remembering auditory information. This is called poor auditory memory. It can be called a lot of different things in our world here, but the bottom line is if he isn't able to process auditory information and instead can do so with visual information, how about if I text him? So instead I text him the items that I need, and guess what? With this approach, he may be better able to follow through. This same example applies to children in the classroom and at home. So if what you are finding is that a child isn't really following through, they're not really doing what you're asking them to do, regardless of how many times, there could be something going on with these auditory and visual processing problems that need to be uncovered and addressed.
Okay, so I think about this and I think about, at home you tell your kids, I need you to pick up your socks, put away your book bag, do this and do that, and that doesn't happen in like the 30 minutes that you think it should. But maybe if you had a chart and it was written down so that they could see what that was and not just hear what that was, then that might make the difference.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so in my book, Solving the ADHD Riddle, I actually give parents a lot of tips on this. I have book chapters on both auditory and visual with checklists at the end of those that parents can use. There's also a free brief assessment on my website that helps parents and spouses and others that may be working with someone who struggles this way better understand what's going on, because if I can understand this and realize this really isn't willful bad behavior, it isn't someone being lazy, it isn't someone not caring, all of these attributes that we give behaviors some people don't follow through. If we can really understand that these behaviors are actually information, we can decode this. And when we decode it, then we're better able to understand and interact with the person and get our needs and their needs met simultaneously.
Yeah, I totally get that, because I am a visual learner. So if you tell me to do something, but I don't understand like how it works, I need you to show me how to do it. So that's just like the opposite there, but I totally understand what you're saying there. Okay, so what we're going to do when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about 3 ways to help keep kids focused during the remainder of the school year, the last couple of days, and what to do when they're at home for the summer. We'll be back in just a few minutes.